Hello again, and this is the 5th video in our everything about masking in Topaz Studio, or whatever we're going to call this series. This time we're going to talk about just the brush tool within the mask. So I'm going to come up here and choose Color Overlay to bring up an adjustment called Color Overlay. We're going to pick a color. How about a nice green? And we can turn it all the way up. And you know how to open a mask for an adjustment now. You just come over and click this flag, and now we have a mask. Right now the mask is white, so everywhere we see green. If we invert this and it's black, it's hiding all that green, and we're back to the image as we saw it before we ever turned on the color adjustment layer, right? So let's bring up that mask again. There's a couple of ways to do the masking now. I can stay on this inverted mask with a black and use my brush, or I can have that green layer completely obstructing my view behind, unless what can I do? I can reduce the opacity and see the underlying layer and use a black brush. So remember, when you have a mask, black will conceal and white will reveal. Just remember to reset the opacity to your desired amount at the end if you're using that reduced opacity method. But I'm going to go back to the inverted mask. I'm going to choose the brush masking tool here. Add brush mask. And now I'm going to choose a white brush. I'm going to leave the softness where it is and the radius where it is and bring up my tool. Now it may be hard to see because of my highlighted cursor, but when you bring this brush up, you'll notice that it has an inner circle that's red bordered and an outer circle that's green bordered. In between is what could be a feathering of that brush to make it soft, but also it's a smart area for that brush. As long as we have edge awareness turned on, it's a smart brush. It's pretty smart with the default setting of 0.50 or less, and it becomes a little less smart as we go up or as we get much bigger. But let's see what happens if I come up to this. It could be a bird, a face, or a bride, who knows what, a mountain, and we want to put our green behind instead. I can take my white brush and start painting around here, and I'm trying to keep the red circle outside that black area and the green circle or the area in between overlapping, and you can see it did pretty well. Now where I got the red circle a little too close, it didn't do a good job. Have no fear, you can go ahead and switch the brush from white to black, come back over here, be a little more careful perhaps, and clean that up. So now I have the ability to go to any of these shapes and try to keep that smart area kind of split. And we got to switch back to the white brush, and you can see it's going right up to that edge. You can either use a stroke like so, or you can just move along and kind of click like that. But I think you'll get your most complete mask if you do something like this. Same thing here. We're going around. Doing a pretty good job. You can change the size of the brush and get in closer and closer by getting smaller. And don't forget, you can enlarge. I'm using my mouse wheel up to get smaller and smaller and just get in there. Okay, so now if I paint over a little bit in a tight corner like this, it does finish getting into that edge for me all the way to that point. Then I come back to my black brush and tidy things up from the inside out. Okay, so that's a good way to do that. Making the brush really large and softening, decreasing the softness, you'll see that the relative size of that green circle to the red circle has decreased. It's still smart and can overlap, but now I can get my work done perhaps a lot quicker. Right, we got to switch back to the white brush. Common mistake that we all make. All right. So you get the idea, and that's how to use the brush in a smart mode. Now what happens if I turn off that edge awareness? But actually I'm going to backtrack. I'm going to make the brush a lot softer. And you can see that when I do that, I'm getting too much fade into the other areas. And that's what I said earlier. Let me backtrack that one out. That using softness of 50% or lower rather than higher than 50%, the smart technology of that brush seems to be more reliable. Okay, if we turn edge awareness off, same brush settings that I had before, and I come up to one of these things, now it will definitely spill over instead of being smart. Okay, so let's back those two things off, do the exact same brush in the same area but with the edge awareness on, and now you can see it's not spilling into the red or orange areas. Pretty smart brush, I think. That's how we use the brush. Now, if you have something like a texture that you would like to fade onto your subject some, which was part of Sharon's question, then by all means turn off the edge awareness, soften the brush, and come up and paint over a little bit of the edge, and now you get a spill of the effect onto your subject. If it's too big, just decrease your radius, watch how much of that green circle you're putting inside, and now you can spill your texture or whatever effect you want onto your subject to make it look like it's blending in with the texture that you're putting in the background or foreground. So that's the brush and all its magic.